The Russian lawyer who promised dirt on Clinton to the Trump campaign worked with Vladimir Putin's Kremlin. The New York Times reporting that emails show the link, and Natalia Veselnitskaya, that's the lawyer, is admitting it tonight. Here she is talking to NBC's Richard Engel.
Я являюсь адвокатом, и я являюсь информатором.
I am an informant. Let's just let that sink in for a second. The Russian lawyer at the center of that controversial Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016, Natalia Veselnitskaya, the woman you see there, is admitting tonight she worked with Putin's Kremlin. No, she wasn't just a Russian who wanted to change U.S. adoption law. And yes, this was a lie.
I'm certainly flattered by being marked and called as a government attorney, but I have never worked for the government.
A lie that may be, but Veselnitskaya's denial is now part of the official American record. Today, the House Republicans on the Intelligence Committee released this. It's 253 pages, and it is their report of what happened in the Russia investigation. In this, Veselnitskaya's meeting is glossed over, chalked up to simply poor judgment. The Republican conclusion after 253 pages, quote, while the committee found no evidence that the Trump campaign colluded, coordinated, or conspired with the Russian government, the investigation did find poor judgment and ill-considered actions by the Trump and Clinton campaigns. So just poor judgment enough to go around to everybody. Of course, President Trump is applauding the Republican conclusion on Twitter, calling all investigations into him witch hunts, and saying this while sitting next to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel today.
We were honored. It was a great report. No collusion, which I knew anyway. No coordination, no nothing. It's a witch hunt. That's all it is. There was no collusion with Russia.
Now, of course, the House Intelligence Committee has had some serious problems, right? So Democrats and Republicans, this is the Republican, 253 pages. Democrats released their own 98-page rebuttal of these 253 pages, a whole lot of paper. Now, the Democrats say that the committee did not fully investigate connections between Trump associates and the Kremlin. And here's the thing. On this major development tonight, with the Russian lawyer admitting that she's a Putin informant, the Republican who led the Russia investigation for the House Intelligence Committee, the man who oversaw these 253 pages, he says he had no idea. Congressman Mike Conaway telling our Manu Raju when he asked, did you know that she was an informant for the Russians? He said, quote, not that I recall, that's new information. That's his quote, new information. So does this bother Conaway? Is he going to do something about it?
Is it troubling to you in any way that she was a Russian informant and had a meeting with senior-level Trump campaign officials in 2016?
No, because that's not how she presented herself, and there's no evidence that she acted on that.
Does that require any further investigation from the committee, do you think?
Not from my perspective.
Okay, so someone admits to being an informant for Vladimir Putin's Kremlin and meeting with the campaign chairman, the son, and the top advisor for the Trump campaign, and I guess it's not worth anything. Jim Sciutto is out front in Washington, and Jim, you have more breaking news on this Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya.
Well, that's right. Veselnitskaya, who now has identified herself as an informant for the Russian government. We are now learning that she followed up with the Trump campaign after, just days after, in fact, Trump's election. You remember that the Trump campaign, Trump himself has said repeatedly there was no follow-up to that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. In fact, I spoke today with the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff. Here's what he told me.
Yes, Veselnitskaya reaches back to the Trump family right after the election saying, we want to follow up now on this request we have on the Magnitsky Act. So clearly there's an expectation there on the Russian side that they may now have success with the Magnitsky Act, given that the prior meeting and communications dealt with the offer of help and the request on the Russian part for repeal of Magnitsky. It certainly seems like the Russians were ready for payback.
The Magnitsky Act, of course, sets some very serious financial penalties on a lot of very rich people in Russia tied to Vladimir Putin. The implication, Adam Schiff says, is that this was the quid pro quo. We offered you dirt on Hillary Clinton. Now you've been elected. What are you going to do for me? And let me tell you this, Aaron, as well. It was not just the Russian lawyer. In fact, it was two other Russians involved in setting up that Trump Tower meeting, a Russian father and son, very wealthy, wealthy pair connected to Trump who've been with him many times, communicated with him many times. They reached out within days of Trump's election as well, including, and emails show this, discussing potential business deals in Russia. These are the kinds of questions that belie the original Trump explanation that there was no follow-up to that Trump Tower meeting. In fact, they show there was follow-up.
Follow-up, and I think, regardless of your political persuasion, I think everybody could agree if anyone pursued that on the Trump side, it would be, at the very least, inappropriate, at the most, much worse than that. Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, Congressman Jerry Nadler, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks for your time tonight. So, the Republicans on the House Intel Committee, your colleagues over there, they come out with this 253-page report, the Democrats with a nearly 100-page rebuttal. You heard the president, applaud the Republican version, and he tweeted about it as well today, saying, quote, just out, House Intelligence Committee report released, no evidence that the Trump campaign colluded, coordinated, or conspired with Russia. Clinton campaign paid for opposition research obtained from Russia. Wow. A total witch hunt. Must end now. How do you hear that? Must end now. Is this some kind of code to Bob Mueller, or is this just, the words that came to his head? What is it?
Well, I don't know. I certainly hope it's not a code to Bob Mueller. I mean, this complete partisan whitewash by the Republicans on the Intelligence Committee just shows more so why we need an honest report by Mueller. I mean, just the fact that they were relying on this informant and that they characterized, the Republican report characterizes a meeting in which the president's son, campaign manager, son-in-law meet with a Russian agent and tell her, yes, we want information to help the campaign, information that is part of the Russian government's attempt to influence the election on behalf of Trump, which they had just been told by her that it was. We want this information. Shows that there at least attempted collusion, at least I would say attempted criminal conspiracy. Now, I heard Congressman Conaway say, well, there was no follow-up. Well, we don't know that there was no follow-up. In fact, apparently there was follow-up.
But you go as far as attempted criminal conspiracy.
Well, it certainly seems that way. I'm not going to say that as a definite charge, but that's what it looks like, and certainly it's got to be investigated by an impartial investigator, and that's why we have the Mueller investigation.
Here's the thing, it was a year investigation. Now you have the Democrats and Republicans on that committee. Obviously, they've all admitted it to be dysfunctional and not working at all. They come out with these two reports today, 253 pages by Republicans, 98 by the Democrats. And then look, there's so many redactions to make it a joke, honestly. I mean, here's page 24. All right. And then, well, here, I have another one. This is page 24. Okay, I don't
Very
know if you can
informative.
see it. Yeah, all right, so informative. But in all seriousness, with all these redactions, the ultimate question is, was this a waste of time, all of this?
Well, I think the Republicans on the Intelligence Committee made that a waste of time because they did not conduct an honest investigation. They did everything they could to avoid an honest investigation. And the Democratic report shows, I mean, they can't reach definite conclusions, but they show repeatedly where the Republicans refused to follow with witnesses, refused to get the right, get witnesses in who had real information, refused to follow up. I mean, this was a hear no evil, see no evil report. And again, it just shows why we need a fair, impartial investigation, which we have, and from the Mueller investigation.
Right.
And I am just afraid that the president will use this this whitewash as an excuse to try to shut down the Mueller investigation and deny the country an honest accounting.
Does Natalia Veselnitskaya, the lawyer who was at the center of this meeting, does her admission, which, by the way, she had said the opposite before, right? She'd indicated that to the House Intel. She'd indicated that in an interview. She now admits she's an informant for Putin. Whatever whitewash word we want to use for the fact that she was an agent. Does this matter? Does this change anything?
Well, it just increases the evidence that we have of the collusion with the Russians on a very serious basis. We could have figured out, we assumed, many of us, that she was in fact acting for the government. And we know also about that meeting, just that meeting in particular. We know the White House lied about the contents. The president personally lied about when he said it was about adoptions on that famous, when they wrote that report on Air Force One. We know now, well, we've said for a long time that the obvious quid pro quo that they wanted was to get rid of was to help Trump and in return get rid of the sanctions, and they apparently followed up on that.
So when Conaway, obviously who is, technically leading the Russia investigation over at the House, even though Nunes is the one who, really oversaw this memo, but again, I guess semantics. Conaway says that she presented herself as not a Russian agent, so nothing to see here. And from his
of course,
perspective,
we always believe
more
Russian agents when they say they're not Russian agents.
Yeah, I mean, do you think, though, I guess the big question is, putting aside the fact that he doesn't think it's worthy of looking into, do you have any evidence, Congressman, that the Trump campaign was aware of her role, that it was not just a Russian lawyer?
Well, whether she was a Russian lawyer or an informant, she told, and the Agalarovs, the other Russians who were there, told the Trump campaign at that meeting that they wanted to give the campaign information on Hillary Clinton that presumably they had come upon dishonestly, because there was no honest way of getting it, that would help the Trump campaign, and that was part of the Russian government's attempt to help the Trump campaign. That's what they told the campaign. And the Trump campaign, at least the people at that meeting, said, yes, we want that information. We want you to help our campaign.
Congressman, I want one more thing just to ask you quickly. A lot of anger, Democrats and Republicans, at the House Speaker for essentially firing the House chaplain. According to a person who attended the GOP conference today, Ryan basically said he got rid of him based on member feedback about pastoral care. Do you know why he was fired?
No, we don't know. There is speculation that it's because he said in a sermon on the day we adopted or considering the tax bill that we should be fair to everybody, and then that, I would assume that shouldn't be controversial. People's judgments of what is fair differ, but that we should be fair is not controversial, but apparently that was. But I have no idea, and the fact is it is a disgrace. He is a very well-respected chaplain, and the new speaker, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, hopefully it will be Nancy Pelosi in January, will recommend someone, and it may be him or it may be somebody else, and the House will elect a new chaplain. To fire the chaplain is unheard of and unprecedented as far as I know.
All right. Thank you very much, Congressman. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And next, a CNN exclusive. The NRA, a Russian banker, and allegations of a back channel between the Trump campaign and Russia. Plus, Michael Cohen's weak spot. How much longer can the president's personal lawyer afford to keep quiet? And what do Stormy Daniels, Hulk Hogan, and a GOP fundraiser have in common? Well, it's something pretty important.
No matter when you retire, your income doesn't have to. See how Lincoln can help ensure you still have income every month of your retirement, guaranteed, at lincolnfinancial.com.
Let me guess, another spring event. Wrong, it's the Honda Dream Garage spring event. But it ends soon. If you hurry, you can get a deal on Honda's amazing vehicles, and take it from me, these are all pretty amazing. Oh look, it's my amazingly amazing Honda IndyCar, which is a great segue for me to say race into the Honda Dream Garage spring event. Seriously, go fast. I mean, speed limit fast.
The Honda Dream Garage spring event is ending soon. You could get a great deal on a Honda vehicle at your local Honda dealer.
Sometimes, bipolar I disorder can make you feel unstoppable. But mania, such as unusual changes in your mood, activity, or energy levels, can leave you on shaky ground. Help take control by asking about your treatment options. Vraylar is approved for the acute treatment of manic or mixed episodes of bipolar I disorder in adults. Clinical studies showed that Vraylar reduced overall manic symptoms. Vraylar should not be used in elderly patients with dementia due to increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be permanent. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. High cholesterol and weight gain, high blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, decreased white blood cells, which can be fatal, dizziness upon standing, falls, seizures, impaired judgment, heat sensitivity, and trouble swallowing may occur. You're more than just your bipolar I. Ask your doctor about Vraylar.
For all the noses that stuff up around daisies. For all the eyes that get itchy and watery near pugs. For all the people who sneeze around dust. There's Flonase Sensimist Allergy Relief. It relieves all your worst symptoms, including nasal congestion, which most pills don't. It's more complete allergy relief, and all from a gentle mist you can barely feel. Flonase Sensimist helps block 6 key inflammatory substances. Most pills only block 1, and 6 is greater than 1. Flonase Sensimist.
I thought I was managing my moderate to severe ulcerative colitis, but I realized something was missing. Me. The thought of my symptoms returning was keeping me from being there for the people and things I love most. So I talked to my doctor and learned Humira can help get and keep UC under control when other medications haven't worked well enough. And it helps people achieve control that lasts, so you could experience few or no symptoms.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Be there for you and them. Ask your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, control is possible.
Breaking news, the NRA under scrutiny tonight for its ties to a Russian banker who, get ready, is a lifetime NRA member. Okay. The FBI has reportedly been looking into whether Alexander Torshin funneled money to the NRA to help the Trump campaign. That looks like a bazooka. And using his ties to then try to create a back channel between the Trump campaign and, you see him, Putin's Russia. Sarah Murray is out front. And Sarah, it's pretty incredible here when you look at this triangle. You've got a Russian who's a lifetime member of the IRA. First of all, most people go, huh, right there. And then this possible funneling of money and back channel. What are you hearing about this?
Well, it's certainly a very bizarre relationship, and the NRA publicly has insisted they have not heard from the FBI. They've insisted they did not accept any illegal donations, but sources are telling me there is real anxiety among NRA officials about the potential for an investigation and about this long-standing relationship they have had with Alexander Torshin, this Russian banker, and that the NRA has even gone so far as to begin gathering documents going back years about the various interactions between the NRA and Alexander Torshin, as well as one of Torshin's associates, Maria Butina, who started this gun rights group in Russia. And this really is a years-long relationship going back. Torshin built these inroads with the NRA, and as 2016 rolled around, he tried to use those NRA connections and his associates to try to cultivate a back channel with the Kremlin. At one point, one of Torshin's associates reaches out to the Trump campaign and says Putin is deadly serious about building a good relationship with Mr. Trump. They were trying to set up this meeting between then candidate Donald Trump and Torshin on the sidelines of an NRA annual meeting in Louisville. Now, that meeting never came to fruition, but we do know that Torshin managed to meet briefly with Donald Trump Jr.
All right, Donald Trump Jr., and obviously a crucial player in all of this, as well as that meeting at Trump Tower. Thank you very much, Sarah. And now let's go to the New York Times columnist Frank Bruni and White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Network's April Ryan. So, Frank, you heard Sarah's reporting, right? Yeah. All right, here's the thing. I mean, am I alone in sharing shock here? I did not know that a Russian citizen could be a lifelong member of the NRA.
It's pretty curious, right? I mean, and her story, which is fascinating, also reminded us all of something that I'd forgotten, which is the NRA spent $30 million in the service of electing Donald Trump, you know, in support of Donald Trump. And that was more than they spent in 2008 and 2012 combined. So we know that, and we know that this banker, Torshin, is trying desperately through NRA channels to make some sort of contact with the Trump campaign. It's hard to believe investigators won't look carefully at the NRA and these donations, because when you add all of that up, it really looks odd.
I mean, it looks incredibly odd, April, because you got someone who's giving, you know, you're not allowed as someone who is not a citizen of the United States to be donating money to U.S. political campaigns. So if you're giving money to the NRA, who's then funneling it to the Trump campaign, this opens up a Pandora's box, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It really does. But you have to think about it. If Russia is really trying to influence the election process, and influence our democracy, they're going to try in every avenue. And if you think about it, I think back to the George W. Bush years and how people were so afraid that the NRA would actually have its own office in the W. White House. I mean, the NRA is a major player in the Republican Party. So why not? If indeed they're trying to get in, not just go to the Sun, but go to the other players to see where they can get in. It makes sense in an odd kind of way.
I mean, and Frank, here's the thing. You know, Sarah's talking about this. A conservative activist who was reaching out, you know, on behalf of Torsion, said his goal was, quote, to cultivate a back channel to President Putin's Kremlin. By the way, that's something we've heard with other players here when it comes to meetings in the Seychelles with Eric Prince. We've got this whole back channel concept. And this activist added, Putin is deadly serious about building a good relationship with Mr. Trump.
Right.
Now, they don't get the sideline meeting with Donald Trump himself.
Right.
They do get it from, you know, the kind of major gun activist in the family, Donald Trump Jr.,
Yes.
who also is, of course, at that meeting in Trump Tower with Natalia Veselnitskaya.
Yes, who's all over this. And it's really interesting, this story, and I want to build on something April said. We think, because we talk about collusion, about whatever contact or influence happening with some, like, exchange of money in a dark room or exchange of documents, there are so many different ways a foreign actor can try to exert influence over a U.S. election. And this is an illustration of one of those sort of oblique, indirect ways. We don't know what happened here, but if someone is trying to exert influence in a way that is just under the radar, this is one of the ways they might try to do it.
So, April, I'm trying to understand here. Look, the House Intelligence Committee is dysfunctional, and that's a kind word, and I'm not saying that out of turn. Every Republican and Democrat who's sane on that committee agrees. Okay, but we know that Conaway, who's in charge of the Russia investigation, said that if Natalia Veselnitskaya says she's a Russian informant, it's news to him, but he doesn't think it's worthwhile of revisiting in any way, shape, or form. And now Adam Schiff, the top Democrat on the committee, says to our Jim Sciutto that the Republicans are not trying to investigate this whole NRA situation. Here he is.
Here you have, in black and white, evidence that there was an effort by the Russians to use the NRA as their channel, one of their channels to the Trump campaign. There were witnesses with direct knowledge regarding those allegations that we sought to bring in. The Republicans refused.
Is that all politics, April, or is there truth in it? And if so, why would they refuse?
It's about the numbers, those who still support this president, who are strong in supporting the president. And many of those who are supporting the president are in their districts. I'm speaking of the Republicans. Now, think about this. Just this week, you know, we saw Diamond and Silk on the Hill testifying, and Republicans brought them in. And they basically brought them in for Facebook because they shut down all that conversation about Cambridge Analytica. So this is getting really sticky and crazy. They do not want to deal with this issue. But when you have something in your face that you cannot ignore. Yes, you may have touched it before, but you're getting new information. You may have to revisit it. And God forbid something else comes out where it makes it comes to a worse light than what it already is. They will definitely have to reopen it and also have to take that tongue lashing from public opinion saying, why didn't you deal with it then? So there's a lot of ifs out there, but this story continues to grow in leaps and bounds in different ways.
It sure does. And yet, hey, we got a conclusion. We got a conclusion here.